So tonight we're going to share our number one, hold on, I'm putting it in here, number one parenting tip for young families. Because I know that a lot of young families, like new moms, um, people who haven't had children yet and are wanting to have children, folks who've just got married, follow us here. And so I want to make sure that what we learn as we learn, we are sharing with you guys. And I think that as far as parenting goes, this tip is probably what has kept us good when it comes to our children over the last 9 years. Really, we've been together 9 years now. Yeah.
And that is getting on the same page. Being on the same page.
Mhm.
That's key with everything, especially the discipline part. You know,
Mhm.
you make sure you make sure that you have identical values as far as discipline goes, because you definitely don't want your kids to play that, play the fence on you. Mommy said this, and it could ruin relationships for your relationship with the kids, and it could start to chip at the relationship, as far as the parents go. So yeah, man, just being on the same page, and that's key for everything, morals and values with each other. So yeah, that's tip number one, if the most important.
Yeah, get on the same page. I mean, let's scoot just a tad so that I'm in the frame. Yeah. Um, we make sure I'm not the mom who the children get a no from daddy and then they can go ask mommy. Like, I'm the mom, if daddy told you no and you come and ask me, you about to get in trouble for real. Because our children know, and I think all children should know, that their parents are on the same page, that no matter what, discipline is discipline in your home. And now we're not here to tell you how to discipline your children or what discipline should be. What works for y'all works for y'all. However, whatever that is, when you're running a two-parent household, when you're co-parenting, make sure that that looks the same, because you don't want to raise a child that is an embarrassment to you and your spouse.
Right.
You want to make sure that your child understands structure and your child understands discipline. Discipline is being able to do the same thing again and again, even when you don't feel like it. Discipline is being able to tell yourself no when you really want to say yes. Discipline is all of those things that even as adults we find we still battle with, but then we're trying to infuse those things into our children. So discipline first starts with you. As a couple, you should know what discipline looks like for the two of you. And we're very clear on that,
Right. When you say structure too, that also teaches them how to conduct their household. That's probably one of the most important thing, other than disciplining them and making them understand what's happening now. But when they grow, that's the same values they'll instill in their household too. So
right,
very important.
right. Know what consequences look like within your household. Be consistent with what that looks like. A lot of times parents have a hard time because sometimes it's okay and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's up and sometimes it's down. But when we're given children, when we are entrusted with that responsibility, we have to treat it like a responsibility. And as difficult as it is, because truthfully and honestly, most of the time, we don't want to be the bad guy when it comes to our kids. And a lot of our generation especially has this thing where we don't want anybody to not like us, and that includes children. And what that does is that makes the relationship between the parent and the child unbalanced, because the child, I was actually given this analogy at a mastermind event, and my coach was saying how her dog listens to her husband but does not listen to her. And she's like, I'm always giving the dog these special made treats and I'm doing all these things for the dog, and the dog doesn't. I'm like the last person on the dog's list. My husband isn't doing any of those things and the dog loves him. And the truth is, a child, any person that is in your responsibility, When you start treating that person like you're vying for its approval and not the other way around, you shift the balance. And so that child is then in the position of authority. And you end up with a household where you can't keep your kids in line and they ain't listening and they disrespectful.
And when
So,
you don't discipline your kids, without even realizing, that creates a void.
mhm,
So where they'll start looking for discipline because it's something that they need.
mhm,
And that's the case with a lot of kids that's getting in trouble, and they weren't disciplined at the right times being raised, so they're looking for someone to discipline them.
mhm,
And that's what you don't. You definitely want to instill that in kids early,
mhm,
so they don't go looking for it, or it's not a void that they have that they're carrying around.
mhm,
Discipline is love, and it's just a real thing. If you love your kids, you're gonna discipline them. Whatever methods you have of discipline, make sure you do that.
right. And make sure that your discipline is actually discipline and it's not frustration and anger and those kinds of things.
They'll feel that too.
Mhm.
They'll feel it.
Not only will they
coming
feel
from
that,
an angry place.
it won't be effective.
Right.
It won't be effective. It's just gonna make them fight you back. It's gonna make them angry right back at you. And yeah, they're
It's
gonna be
like-
mad anyway. But
Whenever I get upset, if I feel myself getting about to blow, I just
mhm, mhm,
because I want them to see that I'm still calm,
mhm,
you know, and not just
Mhm.
on some reactionary type of stuff. This is the guidelines. This how it goes. So whatever punishment you about to get, to get it. I have to have a clear mind to do it, so they could reach them, so they could resonate.
mhm, mhm. But what's so interesting is within our marriage, we don't argue. We don't just react or respond to each other when we're angry. So that is something, again, that has carried over. When you know discipline within yourself, when you know how to maintain and control your emotions, then it's easier for you to show up the way that you need to show up for your children. We don't yell at our children just out of anger and out of frustration. Everyone in our household understands respect and how to speak to each other with respect. And that's really important. Discipline, you exemplify discipline before you instill discipline. So you are their example of discipline before you can even start disciplining a child. You have to show that example. And that's a really good example of being disciplined, because it's tough. We are 24-hour parents, so we are not, and no shade to anyone who sends their kids to school or daycare or anything like that, but we don't. We homeschool our children, we have them all the time, and it is frustrating at times. Our patience wears thin at times. Can you imagine being with 4 children all day? And so trust me, this is not something that we're like perfect at. But we do have rules. We have a structure, and that, because we're on the same page with that structure, it helps us to also be on the same page when we are parenting our children. And I think that we do a great job of raising. We're not raising wild chickens, because I always think about free range children. It's not like wild; they can just run loose, but they have discipline, they have structures, they have boundaries sometimes that they're not even aware of, but they feel like freedom. And I think it's important for us to do that as well with our children, not keep them so reined in that they can't move, that they can't operate and navigate. However, it is your job to decide what those boundaries are going to be. We've had people who have told us, oh, you should give your kids more choices, and you should, from really little, like 1, 2, 3 years old, and their kids have not turned out the best.
Those
is what
first
I'll
3
say.
years is the most important time to instill any system of discipline that you're gonna roll with. In the first 3 years, really, and the first 7, but the first 3 years, and then we understand. We see in that was they understand. They really understand. So whatever method that you choose, they're gonna understand. You just have to do it early when it's sponges, like fresh sponges. They can just pick up on it, but you let it go on too late, then it's kind of like, they say, can't teach an old dog new tricks. Kind of like that, but they're more accustomed to getting away with certain things now, so it's going to be harder to instill that system of discipline the older they get. So catch them early. You got to get them early. But it's
Yeah.
never too late. They're kids, you know.
You mentioned yesterday something though. I said, or someone said the quote, "You can't teach an old dog new tricks," and you
Yeah,
said you
yeah,
can
yeah.
teach an old dog new tricks, but
Yeah.
you teach that old dog new tricks through trauma.
Trauma, yeah.
And
yeah.
and what we see often is that older children who aren't given discipline in their young age, they are taught when they're older, but it's through trauma.
Yeah.
It's through a difficult situation. It's learning the hard way,
Yeah.
as we call it. And I know, because I was one of them kids who learned through trauma.
So yeah,
So-
and I was just using that as an example, but I'm glad you elaborated on it because eventually it's gonna have to be something all the way out the box. You got to think of all kind of super
Or
extraordinary.
life will send them some things.
I'm not on that,
Life
but
will send them some things.
to avoid stressing out over how you gonna discipline or do this or what I'm supposed to do, catch them early.
Right, right. And so another way that you should be on the same page, our number one tip for young parents is to get on the same page. We just talked about discipline, so making sure that when it comes to discipline, when it comes to your consequences, when it comes to how you are creating boundaries and structures for your children, be on the same page.
Right.
That's the easiest way from the beginning. These are conversations that you should be having. If you are having sex, you should be talking about parenting. Period.
Straight up.
Period. If you are having sex and you are an adult, you should be talking about parenting. Why? Because you could very well end up being a parent with that person. So you should know what their parenting style is, what their goals and ideals are, all that. So getting on the same page should not be difficult, okay? But the second way to get on the same page is with your expectations of that child. And how they should show up for their expectations. Also, how you should show up for their expectations. So, I remember when I was growing up, my mom's expectation was straight A's. Period. There were no B's, no A minuses, none of that. And so, around that, there was a reward system. I would get $100 per A on my report card, which was great. I came up rich all the time. However, both of my parents were on the same page when it came to that. So my dad and my mom had the same reward system for all of their children. Now, it wasn't this, you get $50 if you get a B and all that. It was you either get 100 or you ain't getting nothing. And so they were both on the same page when it came to that. However, sometimes things like punishment, my mom was the I'm taking everything away parent. My dad was the I'm taking everything away, but you could have a little TV parent.
Right.
And so,
oh yeah, that's definitely. That's
and so
definitely
they
dangerous.
were not on the same page when it came to that, and it didn't really go well at all because my mom was really the disciplinarian. So when she caught me watching TV, and I'm like, Dad
Daddy
said I
said-
could watch the TV, both of me and Daddy got in trouble.
Just like we said in the beginning, not only will it mess with your relationship with your kids, but your relationship as husband and wife.
Yeah, my
You
parents are
wanna start-
divorced, so there's that.
Yeah, and it's a lot, all those little things play a part. They play a part. But and back to the reward system, though, you definitely don't want to create also this like ladder effect of rewards. So I know you mentioned earlier. So if one parent provides some money, like $100, like what you were saying with the A's, and then the father or the other parent might provide something else, that may be a little better than the $100. So
A
now
car.
they're gonna, expect it, but like graduation or something big like that, like for a car. But they're gonna expect each
Yeah.
accomplishment to have a bigger and better reward, or just plain level. The plain level is car now. You know what I'm saying? Anything that's price
That's not
range
a
or whatever,
car.
anything
Yeah.
that's not a car, anything beneath
I
a
don't
car,
want it.
I don't want it. So
Yeah.
This year we ride. This how we gonna do it. This gonna be the reward. This year we gonna do maybe $200.
My parents did that.
Yeah, everybody have to be on the same page though, for sure. You can't just decide
My
you
bad,
want to
y'all.
do it. You want to do it a little different. You want to do it this way. It's competition, like.
Yeah,
you
at
wanna
the
creep that.
beginning, At the
create that.
beginning of the school year, they would sit us down and tell us what our rewards would be for certain things.
Mhm.
So that works as well. Being clear from the very beginning what your children are working towards. If you're going to put a reward system in place, I find a reward system a lot easier when it comes to instilling discipline, because give people something to work for and they're going to work for it. But avoid whatever punishment. Okay, that's cool, but what do I get? I get the punishment if I do wrong, but what do I get if I do right?
Yeah.
So it's really important that you keep that balance, and understand that rewards are also a great incentive for good behavior. You don't want to make a child feel like they should only do well if they're gonna get a reward, but you definitely want to be clear around that. I saw someone who posted a throwback clip the other day of this woman who was on Oprah, and she would buy her daughter these like Louis Vuitton jackets, and this was like in the 90s, and the people in the audience were like, you know, why would you do that? And someone commented and was saying, you know, you shouldn't buy your children nice things. They should just do good because that's what they're supposed to do. But when I think about it, I mean, truthfully, you don't go to work because you're supposed to go to work. You go to work because you're getting a paycheck.
Straight up.
Everyone is out for self, basically. At the end of the day, we come here and our first instinct is self-preservation. So even your children are like, what's in it for me? And if you can answer what's in it for me, then it's much easier to get them to do what you want them to do. Now, that also applies to your romantic relationships. But we talk enough about relationships today. We're talking about the parent-child relationship. And the reason we're talking about this is because we're actually dealing with some things with our 9-year-old right now. And he's up writing lines, y'all. We had to take it all the way old school. All the way old school. He's writing lines. Listen.
And so what's going to happen after that is I'm going to make him read it over. It's not actually a line, it's a big long
It's a scripture.
About forgiveness. You make him read it in line, precept upon precept, line upon line. I'm going to explain to him what's happening in it.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm going to make him write it again.
Yeah. So he's gonna have a late night tonight. I'm
I
going
mean,
to
he
bed.
ain't gonna do that over the night, because I gets up at 4:30 in the morning. I ain't got time to be up all night with somebody who done wrong. We're gonna go over it tonight, and then tomorrow we'll do it again.
Oh my goodness. Yes. So another thing.
But too, you don't want to create that favorite parent syndrome either. You don't want to create a favorite parent. So daddy get me better things than mommy, or that type of thing. You don't want to do that neither. That's
I think it's divisive. I think gift giving, though, is an interesting thing because some people are professional gift givers. I know I'm a professional gift giver. Like, I give the best gifts, and I don't think that would make me the favorite parent.
Well, dad is the favorite parent anyway.
Exactly. Because dad's the fun parent.
Even when they're getting chastised, 5 minutes later, Dad, look.
Yeah, yeah. Chauncey says favorite parent syndrome real. Yeah, well.
But but what you said is one thing, but there are some parents that in competition in that area, and they want to be the favorite parent.
That's so odd to me because
Even though it never
truthfully,
works.
I feel like we have to be together when our children are gone. So I'm not gonna be competing with you over who the child likes the most.
You got people that do that.
We compete over who can make each other like each other the most.
Right. I never really realized how much we do that, but I mean, I think that's healthy for a relationship.
Mm.
But we talking about the children's in them.
Yes, we'll tell y'all about the relationship stuff another day.
Yeah, y'all know we coming back with that.
Yeah,
we got content now.
yes, our goal is to go live this week a lot. So y'all gonna see us. Y'all gonna see our faces a lot. So, the third way, excuse us, y'all. They don't be liking Hurricane Daddy. Oh my goodness, I can't even deal with you, Chauncey.
Yeah. Get your mind right, and you won't have to
Yeah,
deal with hurricanes.
Bombshell Caramel says, I think it's a switch off depending on what the child needs. Parents provide different needs. Yeah, that's true. So when I was saying, you know, I do great with gift giving. He's the adventure guy. Like, he takes them to their favorite places and has fun with them and all those different things. So there's definitely a balance. But our reward system, we're on the same page with our reward system. So I think, you know, on one end, the favorite parent thing could be a problem. On the other end, it's like, find your lane and drive in it. Find your parenting lane.
Then
Where are
it'll be
you?
perfectly balanced.
Right. Where are you great when it comes to parenting? Maybe you're a great listener. Maybe you're the better, homework helper or whatever. An effective parent who can really, really help with homework is, listen, we homeschool for, so we can tell you, it makes a difference. So a lot of the things that you think, oh, my spouse buys the best gifts, or my spouse is always taking them out to have fun, where will you excel? Where will you be great within your parent-child relationship? Maybe you're better with having patience and allowing them to do things with you, like cook with you, like craft with you. Build the relationship in that area instead of feeling like it's a competition, because again, you have to like each other when it's all said and done. Them kids gonna be grown and gone at some point. And that's just the truth of the matter. And you don't want you competing to see who's the better parent. And sometimes the competition is subconscious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm thinking that right
Sometimes
now.
the competition is mama is mad because daddy gets to go to work and do his thing and set his schedule up the way he wants to, and you gotta make sacrifices. Sometimes you're competing in your mind that way. And so you have to get out of that competition mode and realize that you guys have to be together when the kids are gone. If you have chosen that type of marriage that is destined to build a legacy, the purpose of your marriage is to build a legacy, and you've taken divorce off the table, you've taken all of that off the table, then you have to realize that you're gonna be together.
That's why that point was so good you made about, if you're having sex, discuss this now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If y'all doing that, discuss it, because I don't condone one night stands or any of that. But if it's that, discuss that. If a child come up out of this deal, we gonna have to come together and learn, raise it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So like make a contract or something. That's the clauses.
Making conscious decisions, y'all. Making conscious decisions.
And that's what I told him, our 9-year-old today. I asked him, was this the right, because we just discussed that from a previous incident. It's all about making the right decisions. I asked him today, was this a good decision that you made? And he agreed no. So I know that he understands what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, too, all this we discussing in occurrences like this is for learning lessons. It's learning lessons for the parent and the child. So remembering that also will keep you from being frustrated. Okay, this is what, especially with early kids. It's our first 9-year-old. So this is learning lessons for us. We're learning how to deal with the 9-year-olds to come. So understanding that makes you understand, all right, I shouldn't get that frustrated. I shouldn't get that angry at all. Just pace yourself and understand the disciplinary system that you have in place and do it that way. But knowing that this is everybody learning from this helps you with the frustration.
And it helps you to be patient and really look at your child. Keep that child in context, that is still a child, that is still learning. And then the last area to get on the same page, and this is so important, y'all, and that's legacy. Your children are your legacy. Your children will go out into the world and represent you. One of the things that always brought me back to center, Lord, because I used to be able to go off the deep end and just not represent myself well at all. But one of the things that my grandmother always told me, always, when you leave your home, you are representing your family. So the way that you present yourself to the world, the things that you say out in the world, the manners that you have, the compassion that you show, everything about you is representing your last name. And your children go out into the world and they represent your last name. And you want to make sure that your children are aware that they are your legacy, that they are not putting a stain on your name, that they are honoring who they are. And that's, you know, a conversation that's not had enough in this millennial generation. We are convinced, I guess, that each person is an individual.
Mm-hmm.
And truthfully and honestly, you can research the fall of empires. You can research the fall of each and every empire and the mindsets and the thought patterns that were happening around those times. And each and every time within those empires, the people started to believe that being an individual was healthier than operating as a unit, than operating as a family. And there were several other things that you can look out at society right now and see that the people then were thinking the same things as the people now. As the scripture says, there's nothing new under the sun. And so understanding that, you can look back and say, well, hey, we're repeating these same patterns. If we want to do better than the last generation, if we truly believe in legacy, then this is how you actually build a legacy. A legacy is not about your individual accomplishments. It's not. It's about what you do to forward your community, to forward your family. So it's really important that your children understand that, and that the husband and the wife, the man and the woman, even if you're just co-parenting, both of you guys sit down and say, okay, what kind of mark do we want to make on the world? What type of person do we want to send out into the world? And I don't think we have those real conversations enough. Sometimes we don't even know what questions to ask, but I hope you got your notebook and you're writing these things down, because these are the questions that you ask. What kind of person would you want to send out into the world? We can look around at the world and say, who getting it wrong and what we need to see more of. Okay, how are you going to contribute to that through your children?
Yeah, because that's little used. And so a lot of the mistakes that we done made throughout our childhood, where we have the opportunity to make sure our children don't make those same mistakes.
Or at least instruct them, because some of them gonna make
And
mistakes.
so that's my main, truthfully, that's one of my main methods of teaching is understanding the importance of decision making. I think that's the number one, the most powerful key we can give our kids is decision making. Understand the consequences from decisions you make, because you can't tell them, you can't force them to do or not to do a thing. You have to make them aware that these decisions can harm you. You decide to go steal, you're gonna have a whole lot of consequences to deal with it, if you get caught or not. Because you're gonna deal with your subconscious. You're gonna be feeling guilty.
Karma.
You deal with karma, you know.
Yeah.
So.
And we see it with our kids all the time. They try to get away with something, and karma get them just like that. And that is another thing that we've noticed. When you know better, God will make you do better.
It's like bam, bam. It's like no,
your judgments
it's
come
coming
quick.
You know, it's coming quick because you know better.
Right,
So,
right.
you know.
Even for us as adults, like, I try to stay on the straight and narrow. I don't even, when I have dreams I'm doing the wrong thing, I wake up like, whoo,
Yep. Just act, you know, we deal with, we try to stay as pure as possible. You
Yeah,
know?
we
So
try.
we want our kids to represent that too when they're out. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and the older they get, we want them to be as pure as possible. We're not, none of us perfect.
Not perfect, but
as pure as possible. and the conversations like not being had, and truth be told, it's the individual. It all starts at home. We all know that we need a village to raise each other, not just the kids, to raise each other, because it's a lot of times when dealing with, just like we deal with 4 kids all day, it's good to have grown conversation, a conversation with other parents, and we vent with each other, you know. So it takes a village to raise a family, but in order to have like-minded people, you start in your own home, and setting your systems in place, and those like minds will attract to you, and everybody could take care of each other. But individual mindset not even welcoming that. So yeah.
And you definitely have uniqueness that you bring to the table. But there's a difference between knowing that you're special, knowing that you're unique, and having differences, and being an individual. So being able to bring your special, unique gifts, talents, skills to a unit and move the collective forward, and being that person who's like, I don't need nobody, I'll do what I want to do, just out here fumbling the ball, basically. And I can say that not in not as a judgment towards you, but because when I was in that mindset, and everyone that I know who is in that mindset is out here fumbling the ball. And it feels like you're fumbling the ball. It feels like you're stumbling all over your life. Why? Because you don't have that support of the collective. You can be an introvert and still have the support of the collective, but in order to do that, you have to be willing to bring your value as well and tap in to the collective. And you do that, we do that, tapping in first, tapping in ourselves and God, then making sure that this here is together. Before we even try to make sure we're together with some kids, we make sure that this here is together. And then we tap in and tune into our children and our household, so that when we step out of our doors as a family, when we go out into the world, we are bringing light, we are bringing love, and the legacy that we have decided. Not that's optional to us, not maybe we, I don't know, maybe we'll put this kind of person out into the world. No. The legacy we have decided to create, and you can decide as parents, as people, you can decide what you want your life to look like, what you want the things that you produce to look like, your fruit. That's the beautiful thing about being a human. We are like trees in that we plant seeds inside of ourselves, other people plant seeds inside of us, we bear fruit, we bring forth fruit, but guess what? We aren't like trees, because we have this beautiful gift that we can decide what our fruit looks like. A tree has to bear the kind of fruit that's in it. We can decide what kind of seeds are planted inside of us, and we can decide what kind of fruit we bear. And that's a power. So use your power wisely, especially when it comes to parenting and family life.
She's so smart.
Oh
She is so bright. I love her. I'm so lucky to be able to parent with this woman, I tell you. She makes
you're gonna make me cry.
life so easy for me. She understands understanding. She doesn't. So if it's an idea or something that I bring up,
Can't take you.
she understands it, because I'm, to the best of my ability, I'm not trying to put my family in harm's way. And we just going back to a couple of lessons prior, that was her way of discovering that she could trust me as a leader of a family, from decisions I make with not only the kids, but for our safety. So I'm thankful. I am thankful.
Oh, that's what y'all are hearting up. Y'all are hearting up there.
to parent with this lovely woman.
Oh my goodness, y'all.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm understanding because I learned from the best. Because you know your wife was not understanding.
So that's another topic.
Oh goodness, I learned from the best.
That'll be a good topic though. Learning each other. I'm not good with titles. I just tell her what it's gonna be, and she come up with the title.
Oh my
The
goodness.
title is Learning from Each Other When We Ain't Know What to Do. Be long as hell. She'd be like, gee, well, let's condense that. And this the title.
Oh goodness. I
It's
think
balance.
I talked about that a couple weeks ago when I talked about attracting a prolific love. That's what I talked about when Nipsey passed. Lord, I don't even want to think about it right now. Because I just get well up in my heart every single time. But when I talked about attracting a prolific love, that was what I spoke about, being teachable as a woman and being able to be taught by a man. That's so powerful, so important. We each must train our youth, participate and cooperate in the collective by intentionally contributing our unique gifts. Yes, I will say though, hold on, you like all his
bad,
man
my
stuff
bad, my
all in the
bad.
camera.
Thank God. Yeah.
I think though that yes, we have to contribute to the collective. I think that as a collective though, before we can expect everyone to contribute, we have to come up with or not even come up with, because it's already available. We have to get back to a collective value system so that everybody's on the same page when it comes to how we contribute and things like that. How we're raising our children. It takes a village. We got to be able to trust the village. We got to be on the same page as a village, truthfully. But I hope that y'all enjoyed this today. I hope that it was valuable to someone. I know I have a lot of non-parents who love coming on for relationship advice and things like that, but we also like to make sure that we are speaking to what we're learning, what we're growing through and going through, and real things that we know that other young families out there are experiencing, because it gets tough, but we make it work. We make it work.
Gotta make it work.
Y'all, his skin is, he didn't even get a facial. Do you see this? His skin is just naturally, look at that.
I'm glad I'm brown, so I don't blush too hard.
Oh my goodness, y'all. The ladies know what I'm talking about. You look like you just got a facial.
Oh yeah?
Because you got perfect skin. Men get perfect skin. Men get the perfect skin and the long eyelashes and don't even know what to do with them.
I have long eyelashes. Z.
You have nice eyelashes though. You have very thick eyelashes.
Oh, I didn't know.
You have eyelashes like Zay's.
Z got, yeah.
Don't know what to do with them. But yes, other than that, you guys, I hope that y'all enjoyed this evening. I hope that y'all enjoyed us over there on Periscope as well. It's been forever since we've been on. So thank y'all for having us. Thank you for tuning back in after such a long time. Peace and love, y'all.